That shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. That doesn't look right at all. That does not look right at all. Something's wrong. Something is amiss here. Something strange things are afoot at the Circle K. Oh, there we go. There we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neiman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope you had as good a day today as Donald Trump certainly had. Well, that's impossible. Nobody had as good a day as he had. Nobody. There's nobody on the planet who had as good a day as Donald Trump had, because now I'm going to tell you, you saw the headline for tonight's show. You saw the headline, which is Trump has made America great again. I firmly believe this. He has. Does that mean that America has no flaws? No, America's always had flaws. Even during its heydays, there's always been flaws. There's always been flaws. Look. Let's look at it this way, right? I mean, during America's heyday, there weren't ATMs, right? I mean, ATMs are a good thing. They're a good thing, right? That's a good thing. So yeah, so even the best of days had flaws. So does January 5th, 2026 have flaws? Oh, heck yeah. But America is in certain ways great again, in ways it has never been great during, I don't know, the last 2 generations, 3 generations, since World War II, at least. I'm telling you right now, America's great again. We are. And at the center of that greatness, you have to tip your cap. It is our commander-in-chief, particularly in his role as commander-in-chief, because right now the entire world is at his disposal. The entire world. If that's what he wanted to get out of this, which you have to figure with Donald Trump, probably fit the agenda. Probably is consistent with the theme of what he's been looking for, because at the end of the day, he is Donald Trump. Love him or hate him. I mean, you know that a lot of what Donald Trump is about is Donald Trump. I mean, and you got to tip his cap to him, because Lord knows the rest of the world is. The rest of the world is love him or hate him. The rest of the world is recognizing that he and America are a force. And you see it in the way that they talk, in the way that they dance, in the way that they're sort of like trying to figure out, how do we deal with this guy? What do we do with him? What like this was a flex. I called it yesterday a flex. And today, with the first business day since the apprehension of Nicolas Maduro, the reaction from the world in the political sense, in the messaging that they're giving out there, is basically shock and horror, like fear, a genuine fear that we don't know what this guy's going to do next. We have no idea what he's going to do next. We all thought he was bluffing when he said, like, oh yeah, Maduro better watch out. If you're the leader of Hamas, you're the leader of Cuba, you're the leader of Denmark, you're like, I don't know what this guy's going to ask for next. And if I don't give it to him, I don't know what he's going to do. And Lord knows he has the capacity to do it. And we see that sometimes he'll pull the trigger. As our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said, look, this is a president who's showing you he doesn't play around. He tells you what he wants from you, and you better ante up, because he's not playing around. And the world reacted today in ways I don't remember ever seeing in my lifetime. I'm older than a lot of you. I'm willing to bet I'm older than a lot of you. I mean, at least the YouTube demographics say I'm a lot older than a lot of you. Yeah. So anyhow, that is what happened today. And I also updated, if you joined in early, you might not have seen, I updated because I meant to throw it in there, but I was trying to get this stream out as fast as possible because I had a family function tonight. It was a post-wedding party for my niece, so which we call Sheva Brachos, which was being hosted by us and basically my wife's side of the family, because it's a niece on her side. So like, and they asked me to give a speech, so I did that, and it's a dinner, and it's a little party type of thing, and it's far away from where I live. So I knew it was gonna we're getting back here late. I was hoping I can show up and running by 11:30, but I didn't schedule the time because, and I need to get it a half hour up. I need to get it up a half hour before. I noticed here the first super chat I got from Wesley was, so it's some kind of law you can't start 9, so you start 9:05. I'm trying to learn Judaism. I want to follow the rules. I scheduled it for 12. I told everyone midnight, but then I scheduled for 12:05 because I did not make the 11:30 p.m. cutoff. And YouTube sends out notices a half 30 minutes before showtime. So if I don't get it out more than 30 minutes before, like, no one finds out about this. A few enough people get notifications, but the few who do tend to get them with that 30-minute pre-show notification. And I've noticed pretty consistently that if I ever try shoehorning in that, I'll set up a stream and start less than a half hour later, my audience is cut by a good 40%. So I need to so if I didn't get it up to 11:32, I have to shove it back to 12:05. But I told everyone I was going to do midnight, so that's why I was like sticking with the midnight thing. But yeah, so that's why I ended up pushing it back. Jay Schwalbach, Joe, get a freaking producer. You're killing me. I'm trying, brother. I am trying. You should watch Jesus A. Rojas, the body language guy. Reaction to today's stream, an open letter. He's Venezuelan, and you'll like it. I like that. Jesus A. Rosas, the body language guy. I've seen a lot of his work. And he's I do think I want to check that out. I hadn't thought to look there. I didn't realize he was Venezuelan per se. I knew he was Spanish, obviously, but I didn't realize he was Venezuelan. So I will try to check that out. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. J.H. Schwalbach. U.S. indicts Maduro, sets trial for a year to year and a half out, during which time we set up a government in Venezuela does favorable to U.S. Venezuela demands Maduro back and puts them on trial. During which time we set up government in Venezuela does favorable to that. Oh, that's favorable to the U.S. Venezuela demands Maduro back and put them on trial. America out. So that's what you're saying, is how you're seeing this whole series of events unfolding. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. I don't think we're just going to give him up. I'm glad you brought this up, JH, because I'll tell you that I saw a video that I'm going to share with you all, which has an interesting theory, which Alex Jones sort of leans in on in a little bit of a different way than was brought up by the original person who shared that theory. And I wanted to share with you, because I'll tell you, I think that there's some logic behind it about whether this was as hostile an acquisition as it appears on paper, or whether this is sort of a coordinated rescue of Maduro. And well, we'll get into it. I'll share that with you. That's my teaser for what's coming up later. But I definitely want to talk about that and just theorize with you. I want to share with you what Alex Jones was sharing out and his thoughts about the capturing of Maduro. And I also want to share with you this theory that perhaps this was not quite the hostile apprehension that's being played to the world, and that there would be reasons for this to be almost like a little bit of a show. And if so, it sort of speculates Trump is playing 4D chess, but we'll talk about it. Shiloh, member for 18 months. What did you think about Barnes' response to the whole Maduro arrest and extraction? I did not see it. People were telling me what he said, and I disagree with him. Based on what's been reported, I disagree with his take. I think that he's being unduly critical of Trump. I think we need to see what ends up happening with Venezuela before we can really come to terms with, is this overall a good thing or not? In the short term, there's definitely goodness. There's definitely yummy goodness to this. A lot of yummy goodness. But whether, I don't want to see us get involved in a protracted way in Venezuela. And if we do, I would look at this as a serious net negative, because I don't want to see U.S. troops in there. If we're going to be extracting oil from there, I want the oil companies to basically be setting up their own security. I don't want American forces there. I don't want to send in thousands of peacekeepers, analysts, advisors, like they called it in the Vietnam War, to try and secure Venezuela. I think that would be terrible, awful. I would be very upset with Trump for that, because that would be against what we were told is supposed to be happening here. So, or, when we voted him in, and I think there's a lot of assumptions that that's what's going to happen, and I think those assumptions are very premature. So, if the extent of our involvement is this extraction, I tip my cap and I say, chef's kiss, beautiful, beautiful. That you resurrected the reputation of the American military, which was shattered in Afghanistan by the Biden administration. He literally just, that negative narrative about our weak transgender military, incompetence, lethally incompetent military, was eradicated between this and Iran. This is, Trump basically is like, we have a total of between those two, massive operations of 6 hours of 6 hours of basically barraging and assaulting our enemies to basically make them bend their knee toward us without the loss of a single American life. That's heroic. That's astonishing. And that is something that the entire world reacted to today in a way that makes them seem like that every world leader right now is pretty much Trump's bitch. If he yanks their collar, they'll be like, oh. And they're hoping their collar isn't the one that's next, the one that's next to be yanked. That's what you as an American should be proud of. I'm not looking to earn their favor. I'm not looking for them to like us. I don't care if they like us. I care if they are going to respect the wishes of my president. I'm fine with them fearing us or being, concerned, that they acting out of concern for their own self-interest, that they have to do what Trump wants. That's America being a superpower, not a superpower, the superpower. That's what it is. That's Trump. That's America being the world superpower, not simply in name, the way we have been for the last, 50 years, probably going back to Kennedy, 60 years. You could theoretically go back to Eisenhower, since, when's the last time we won something? I know shock and awe looked great for 10 minutes, but that ended up in a debacle. So right now we don't have any further investment. There's no way, if we don't send troops there, this cannot go wrong militarily for the United States. So our military looks friggin' intimidating. Our military looks like something that, hey, you better do what we want. And I don't care if they like that. I don't care if any other country, I don't care what country you're labeling there. I don't care if you're talking about Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Palestine, Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti, China. I don't care. I want them all to basically feel as if they need to do what Trump wants. And that's how they feel today. They're hoping he doesn't, they're basically, a lot of them are saber rattling. It's a term that doesn't get used often enough. Saber rattling basically meaning like, you better not mess with Greenland. You better not. Please don't. Like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, I'm going to call it international violation of law. Okay. So? What are you going to do about it? That doesn't mean I think it's a good idea. It's necessarily go against their wishes. But I'm willing to defer to Trump. I'm willing to defer to him at this point. This guy understands foreign policy in ways arguably no American ever has. He's displayed an aptitude as far as how to make the world jump and help make the world a more safe and secure place, like while building our standing. So the idea, like, I don't like these calamity Janes who are all running all over the place saying like, oh my gosh, we're at war. Trump knows what he's doing. He's been right. Like, show me where he's been wrong in foreign policy. In 5 years of him running the country, show me that instance where he was wrong on foreign policy. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna find it. So yeah, I have fierce respect for his foreign policy. Fierce respect. That's why I remain hopeful that he's not actually going to be sending troops in there, because that does feel like something that would be against what I want. And so far, this guy's batting 1,000. Look, the man is very flawed. He's very flawed, but his foreign policy is just crazy awesome and powerful, intimidating. Everything. He's the king of the world. How can anyone even dispute that today? How would anyone dispute that? I sent you a message on Locals with timestamps. Kurt was talking not so nice. I was like, ooh, I'm telling Jew, you're my favorite Jew after all. I struggle to believe that he said anything anti-Semitic or anything I would deem anti-Semitic. So but I appreciate that. I'll try to check it out. I appreciate you sharing it with me. Thank you. I've got to get up in 30 minutes before it's sponsored by Viagra. What? I gotta get up 30 minutes before. Sponsored by Viagra. Why are they not sponsoring me? I don't understand. Speaking of sponsorships, I do have one sponsorship. I have a new sponsor tonight. I wanted to share with you all. I have a new sponsor that I'm going to bust out on you all. And I also, totally unrelated, have a goal up that if we hit our goal of 15 super chats of $10 or more, I have like a dozen videos that I'm telling you right now, at least one of them is going to have you crying in laughter. At least one of them is going to have you crying in laughter. I have a dozen videos that last night I was just like, after I finished the show, I was like flipping through Instagram, and much as I was complaining how when I stumble on a good video in X and I start scrolling through the next one, they're all lunatic lefties. So I can have someone who's like hardcore based awesome video, and I scroll up and there's, Brian Krasenstein talking some nonsense, or some lunatic lefty no one ever heard of before who's like, Trump is the devil and he's going to destroy America and democracy is on the line. And then I scroll up and get some other, hey, you MAGA tards. It's like one after another. I was just like, what is this? Why is this in my feed? Instagram is just the opposite. I find something good in Instagram, I scroll up, I'm going to find something like better. It's amazing. It's very hard for me to get off Instagram when I start there, because I'm just like, so I just started saving like nugget after nugget after nugget to share with you guys. And I will, if we hit our goal. If not, I'll save it for another day. I think it'll take probably 3 to 6 months before the loyalists and other bad dudes get rounded up and the country gets handed over to the good people. Maybe. Looking forward to filling truck tank with $20. Yeah. Gas prices seem like they're on the verge of coming crashing down. So that's a good thing. Breck Nichols says, this is for strange things are afoot at the Circle K. You like that reference? Huh? That's my age range right there. That's Gen Z right there. Whoa, strange things are afoot at the Circle K. Classic line. Before that actor became a classic actor, when that actor was just a nobody. I'm not even going to give it away. If you know, you know. And if not, well, you need to be better versed in classic movies. Rizalian says, Joe, did you see a POS writer named Seth Harp doxed the head of Delta Force and got reported for it and is now facing a huge backlash? I did not see that. I did not see that. No. That's interesting. Wow. Wow. Look at that. Look at that. So by the way, those were two $10 Rumble. Those are two $10 rants. So we're basically, it looks like on the thing that we need like, oh my gosh, 14 more, but it's not true. It's not true. We only need a dozen more. We're working our way there. Anyhow, let's get into it. You guys want me to start with Tim Walz? Because I added Tim Walz as an afterthought. Not that it was an afterthought. I actually had saved a couple of clips on Tim Walz from this morning, and then I saw there was updated news after I started putting my video together and was setting up my links. I was like, oh, whoa, he's under investigation now. This is serious stuff. Tim Walz looks like he's in trouble. He may be in trouble. So what do you think? Should I start with Tim Walz or should I just jump on Maduro? What do you think? I'm checking the there you go. Alan Sparks is on. You want me to start with Walz? That was the first. Lady Babylon is saying start with, Tim is a fine target. Let's start with Walz. Let's knock Walz out. All right. We'll start here. This was earlier today.
Major breaking political news out of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tim Walz will not seek re-election as governor, and what a fall from grace this has been for him.
What a wonderful year it's been for him.
You might recall in the spring of 2023, he pushed through several progressive ideas to the state legislature that caught the attention of Barack Obama, who went to Twitter to give his endorsement for the programs, which eventually caught the attention of people like Kamala Harris, who chose him to be her running mate as the vice president. Introduced in Chicago at the convention in August of last year, a debate that was an absolute disaster with J.D. Vance at one point called himself a knucklehead. But after reportedly billions of dollars have been stolen from taxpayers by way of the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz says he will not seek a third term. What a remarkable 2 years in the national spotlight has been for him, Dana.
And Walz hit Trump in his
So there you go. There you go. So first up, he's out of the gubernatorial race. Nick Shirley responded to that with this, which was great. I ended Tim Walz. 500,000 likes. I ended Tim Walz. You did, Bo? You ended Tim Walz. Yeah. Forward tweet which says it all. I ended Tim Walz. It's true. How much fraud are we talking about? Well, here's his right-hand man David speculating on the extent of the fraud that they've yet to uncover. And this is what people are saying, that he's dropping out of the race not because of the fraud we know about, but the fraud that is yet to come.
I've lived my whole life here, and my opinion is that this is the worst fraud in human history. What is occurring in Minnesota and more specifically in the Twin Cities right now?
How much money do you think has been sent around fraudulently here inside Minnesota?
Over the years, I would say anywhere from 80 to 100 billion dollars.
And right now, the big controversy.
So everyone's all excited that David, whoever David is saying 80 to 100 billion dollars. Is it that high? I don't know. Trump estimates it could be $50 billion. He says, you know, they know of 19 billion, but it could be 50 billion. The number keeps skyrocketing upward. He's saying 80 to 100. I don't know how he would know that. I also, to be fair, if Jack Smith said that, you know, that Trump committed 80 to 100 billion dollars worth of fraud, I'd be like, you're an idiot. I don't trust you. So if I'm not going to trust Jack Smith on that, I don't know. I have a reservation before jumping on board with believing that the number is actually 80 to 100 billion, but it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because even if it's 2 billion, 5 billion, that's enough. That's enough where this guy should be like investigated beyond this guy, Tim Walz, and what the hell is going on there? I mean, once you start talking 10 billion, 15 billion, 19 billion, whatever numbers they are, Tampon Tim here has got some explaining to do. And it seems as if Tampon Tim may be under scrutiny. That's what all the reports coming out now, that the DOJ is just digging in and checking him out. Caroline Levitt just announced President Trump is sending the whole government after Tim Walz in Minnesota to uncover fraud. 2,000 agents on the ground from DHS. FBI is on the ground. HHS freezing money. USDA is investigating SNAP. This is a massive win. Let's hear from Carolyn here.
Entire government effort. We are surging resources. You saw today the Department of Homeland Security announced we have nearly 2,000 agents from the Homeland Security Investigations Team. The FBI is on the ground, and we're freezing money. HHS cut off funding for child care centers and for daycares. USDA Secretary Rollins has been asking Governor Walz to see the recipients of SNAP in his state. So this is all hands on deck. Rest assured, it's a top priority for President Trump. And he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable. And I think the Department of Justice is going to find out. Higher government.
So the DOJ looking into charging Tim Walz, which I cannot believe that they can't find anything on him. I'm sure they can find stuff. I'm sure that guy is so dirty. Here is another clip of Carolyn. This time with Jesse Waters.
Does it surprise you what's happening with Tim Walz?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. The scale of the fraud that the Trump administration, with the help of great independent journalists like Nick Shirley, is uncovering right now is surely shocking. But President Trump has been calling out Tim Walz for his incompetence and corrupt leadership for a very long time. And Trump was right about everything. This is another example of that, which is why Governor Walz is dropping out of the race for re-election today. This is a man who can no longer even win the support of the voters within his home state because his policies have failed them. And now the great people of Minnesota, a state that was once known as the land of 10,000 lakes, has been turned into the land of 10,000 Somali schemes because of their governor. And don't forget, this is a guy who was at the top of the Democrat Party's ticket, the number 2. He was Kamala Harris's running mate just about a year ago until President Trump crushed them last November. And it was in large part
crushed him last November. It's true. Humiliated him
because the president was calling out this fraud.
Well, I'm a knucklehead.
So this has been a day one priority for the Trump administration, Jesse. The Department of Justice has convicted and prosecuted nearly 100 defendants in Minnesota. And because of these new details and this new reporting that has come to light, this is a all hands on deck across the entire government effort. We are surging resources. You saw today the Department of Homeland Security announced we have nearly 2,000 agents from the Homeland Security Investigations Team. The FBI is on the ground, and we're freezing money. HHS cut off funding for child care centers and for daycares. USDA Secretary Rollins has been asking Governor Walz to see the recipients of SNAP in his state. So this is all hands on deck. Rest assured, it's a top priority for President Trump. And he believes that Governor Walz is criminally liable. And I think the Department of Justice is going to find out.
Well, they should, because it's too much money to lose. You can't say, oh, oops, I don't know where it went, especially when all of those whistleblowers going crazy. And
yeah, we forgot about that. There were hundreds of whistleblowers telling Walz There's massive fraud going on here, and instead of following up on those leads, he would actually go after the whistleblowers.
The AG there, Ellison, acting like he was running PR for these Somalians. So down in Venezuela, there's a lot of action, and the country is thrilled with the precise, flawless military execution overseen by the commander-in-chief and the team. What comes next?
Well, first of all, I have to give incredible credit to President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rubio, our Vice President, J.D. Vance, the entire team across the board. This is undoubtedly one of the greatest foreign policy and military achievements the United States of America has ever seen. And as Joe Biden used to falsely say, we can now truly say America is back. Thanks to the courage of President Trump, thanks to the leadership of his amazing cabinet, and thanks, of course, to our brave men and women in the United States military. So now this exact same team of foreign policy leaders who have been running President Trump's Venezuela foreign policy this entire time will continue to do that. We have a lot of leverage over the remaining Maduro government right now. I know Secretary Rubio is in constant correspondence with them. We're going to make sure this country aligns with the interests of the United States of America.
All right, and congratulations to you too. That's great news.
So there you go. There you go. All right. Thank you. Appreciate y'all gotta appreciate that woman. She's great. She is awesome. Caroline Levitt. Everyone loves Caroline. I will tell you that sadly, I'm not going to watch this entire video because it's heartbreaking and it's long, but the consequences of this fraud are very real because the fraud has basically led to the federal government saying, hey, we gotta pause our payments, and it's causing real life harm to Minnesotans.
And you're being punished for it right now. 22 years, spotless record, and you're being punished for it right now.
We're going to be shut down because people stole money. So now all my kids and everyone else's kids and disabled adults are going to be the ones that pay for the fraud. I mean, I'm not going to come up with $250,000. This will put us under, and it's very unfair to discharge 200 plus kids because the government doesn't just throw a bomb on us. It's just wrong.
200 children, I'm sure you've probably had to deliver this news to some of their parents, may not be open much longer. How have they taken that? What are they planning on doing?
They're stunned. I mean, I saw 4 of them yesterday. You know, it's don't make me cry. Sorry.
It's horrible.
It's terrible.
It's horrible. You know, people forget that
Jennifer, tell us.
People forget that there are victims, like real victims of this fraud, and you don't even think of the collateral damage to a good faith business like Jennifer Larson's.
A little bit about this facility, your facilities. What do you do? How long you've been doing it? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I opened my first facility in Excelsior for my son, Caden. He was diagnosed at 19 months. And I opened it in June of 2004. He was 3 at the time, because I knew with the level of his disability that if I sent him to a school that he wasn't going to have the kind of care that I thought was appropriate. And I was actually kind of scared. We opened in 2004 there with just my son and 2 other kids who the parents had a similar vision of a holistic care center that brought together all the best therapies, speech, OT, and ABA, which is applied behavioral analysis, which is the main core program we do here. But also no pesticides, no chemicals, and just a very holistic approach for the whole child to be healthy. In 2009, we moved to this facility and expanded from there.
So you've been in business for over 20 years. You have a spotless record. They come in here once a year and do a spot audit on you. You don't know when they're coming.
They can come in anytime they want. They don't only have to do 1 a year. They can come in anytime they want. So we welcome it, actually. I think it's an opportunity to show how good we actually are.
You're subjected to these.
Which, by the way, that's all good faith businesses. They're like, hey, look, I got nothing to hide here. We're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. you don't want to be harassed, but it's like you're sort of proud to show off how clean you are. Like, for example, if you're ever playing cards with someone, you know, like it's sort of like, hey, look, you just watch me and see what I'm doing, and you tell me, like, how am I cheating? Like, if you're not cheating, you're not ashamed of anything. You don't get defensive. You're actually very open to it. Say, hey, look, you tell me. This is tragedy.
These 90-day waiting periods now for reimbursements. You have a $250,000 biweekly payroll, 120 employees, hundreds of clients, many of them children, obviously, 5 facilities. What is that going to do to your business?
Potentially kill it if something doesn't change. This last week, I should have gotten $212,000 for the payment this week, which would have covered my payroll. So I had to infuse my own money in for payroll this week. And obviously, if I have to wait 90 days, that's a whole quarter. And even when that 90-day hits, I'll only get the 2 weeks that just happened. But in that time,
there's
before
another
90
2
days,
weeks.
I'll have $250,000 and $250,000 and $250,000. So it becomes a multi-million-dollar problem.
Basically, she needs a loan until she can catch up. It sounds like she needs a loan of like $4 million. It's certainly it's certainly $3 million. That's what it sounds like she needs in order to cover payroll for the next 90 days. That's what it sounds like she needs. Anyhow, so there are real legitimate businesses which are suffering, and this is all as a result of Tim Walz allowing fraud to go unchecked in his state. Another reason to really be a big fan of that man, who's such a humanitarian. Such a humanitarian. Kathy says, speaking of collar yanking, Trump is headed to Davos in a few weeks. Good times, good times. Bets on he comes home with new U.S. territory, Greenland. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, Cars and Dimensions says, your family wedding, you didn't buy custom embroidered and laser engraved Judaica from me for a gift. Is a chutzpah kazot. Okay, let me explain something to you. Okay, I need to explain something to you. This particular niece, I would be way too intimidated to try buying anything for her out of fear that, because she's like very stylish, and I would be afraid that whatever I would select, as handsome and talented as you are in creating Judaica, which I've seen his work, he's very talented. Blessed with his work, I would never presume to actually gift her with something, because I'd be like, whatever I'm going to pick is just, I just don't have the same yardstick or standard for grace that she has. So it's not a chutzpah. It's not. Eza chutzpah kazot means what kind of chutzpah is this? What kind of gall is that? But yeah, my point is, it's really my own inferiority complex about my tastes that would ever keep me from actually shopping for her. So there you go. Speculation on X is that Walz made a deal with Klobuchar to step aside. I'm so glad you brought this up, Kathy. I'm so glad you brought this up. So the speculation is that Walz made a deal with Klobuchar to step aside so she runs for governor and then appoints him to her vacated seat if she wins. Okay, so I saw that speculation, basically that that if she steps aside, now the governor can decide who is going to replace the Senate seat, and that so she then would be in a position to name Tim Walz as the new Minnesota senator to fill her vacated spot. First and foremost, I have questions about the logistics of that. It seems like a difficult thing to do, only in the sense that she would have to win, and then she has to announce that she's resigning, and then that seat would have to be open for several months until she actually gets sworn in as the governor. And this sounds like the type of thing that people who, it sounds like the type of creative thinking that doesn't actually end up working. First and foremost, you need her to win, which I think that she's far from being a shoo-in of winning the gubernatorial race, were she to try and throw her hat into that fray. I think that she's very far from being a shoo-in, in the sense that you have to imagine Minnesota is very close to being a purple state. We keep seeing them edge out, and I think that there's some shady stuff going on in Minnesota to help them edge out. But with everything that, Trump's wins, excuse me, and all the fraud that the Democrats are being caught in, that taint is going to carry over to whichever Democrat candidate runs for governor. You have to imagine that's gonna whoever manages to win the Democratic primary, that taint is going to carry over. So Klobuchar is far from a shoo-in. A Republican candidate for governor would have a really good chance in Minnesota. So I don't know that she's such a shoo-in, first and foremost. Quite the contrary. I think that, despite the name recognition, let's assume she's popular there for one reason or another. People are able to get past that annoying, croaky voice of hers. But what about what Trump is doing is wrong? Yeah, oh God. Every time I hear her voice, it's like nails on a chalkboard. But I think that whoever the gubernatorial candidate is that's wearing blue is going to have a difficult time because of the stain that's carrying over. You're talking about this state has been robbed blind by Democrats. And it's not like it's like a deep blue state the way New York or California are. It's not that deep blue. So I think whoever runs on the Republican side has a really good chance. Even were she to win, then you have to ask about the logistics of so she wins and she has to announce her vacatur and then she would put him in. You also have to ask what's in it for her. Why? This is the other thing that people who throw this sort of speculation out there don't really think about. Why? Why would you want to tie yourself to Tim Walz? I understand that today in January of 2026, there's some sort of, lingering love that they have for Tim Walz. This dude is about to be facing a serious investigation. He is very far from popular. He's so far from popular that he's not running. And he potentially is going to be, under indictment. Why would you want to hitch your pony to that? If you're Amy Klobuchar and you manage to pull out the governor's seats, why would you want to hitch your pony to Tim Walz? What does that offer? What's the upside there? I don't see where there's any upside for her to be hitching it to this is a star that is fading fast. So why would you want to anchor yourself to that? I don't see what Tim Walz could be offering her, what he's bringing to this new relationship between them. That it's now if you're telling me that they're lifelong buds going back years, okay, I guess that would make some sort of sense. But usually in most political circles, the friendship is out of, okay, I'm going to help you because you're able to help me. And I don't see what Tim Walz has to offer her at this point in time. What does he have to offer? This guy's a failure as a governor who's under federal investigation. And by all accounts, at the very best, even if he survives an investigation, at the very best, he's overseeing such utter incompetence that you have to sort of, scratch your head and say, what kind of buffoon are you? He's either a complete and total moron, if you judge him as favorably as possible, he's an incredibly incompetent human being. If you want to give him the benefit of the doubt over and over again, you have to say he's an utter boob, a moron, incompetent loser. And if you don't judge him that favorably, then he's just a thief. He's corrupt. So why would Amy Klobuchar, fresh off of winning a governor race, ever want to hitch her star to him? I'm sure there's a lot of other people she'd love to curry favor with who are not necessarily, at nosediving their way out of a political career. Please move chat from the right side of the screen. What? What chat? What? Huh? Huh? What? Huh? I don't know what that means. Let's see. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Got anything on Arizona Senate before Maduro? I don't know what that means either. I'm trying, people. I'm trying. Thanks. I want to fix the chat show. All right. You're welcome. Glad that all worked out. DNC directs them. Klobuchar and Walz are twin idiots. I'm not saying that she has any sort of brain to her. No. I don't think she has any sort of brain to her. I think she's actually one of the stupider senators. No, I mean, she's safe as long as Senator Hirono's alive. But, you know, she's like, as politicians go, like, you know, a step slower than an Elizabeth Warren. A step faster than a Kamala Harris. No, you know, no. When you're competing with Kamala Harris, that's never a good sign. That's never a good sign. I'll tell you one guy from the Democratic Party who's smart as a whip. I don't know how much longer he's going to be a Democrat. But oh my God, love me some John Fetterman.
I don't know why we can't just acknowledge that it's been a good thing what's happened. I mean, I've seen the speeches from whether it's Leader Schumer or kinds of past tweets from President Biden. You know, we all wanted this man gone, and now he is gone. I think we should really appreciate exactly what happened here. Now, remember, we all Democrats years ago wanted to eliminate him, and why have a bounty of $25 million if we didn't want him gone? Why would you do these things if you weren't willing to actually do something other than harsh language? Let's remember.
Why would you put a bounty on him of $25 million and then chastise Trump for collecting him himself? What is the thought process? And I'm going to show you that in a moment.
8 million Venezuelan were displaced and mass chaos. And now they were shipping drugs to our nation as well, too. So for me, it's like, why, as a Democrat, you know, we can't just acknowledge that it was successful. I don't know why we can't just acknowledge that it's been a good thing what's happened. I mean, I've seen the speeches from whether it's Leader Schumer or kinds of past tweets from President Biden. You know, we all wanted this man.
So yeah, Fetterman is the one guy who actually understands how to give messaging that is logical. He's like, look, let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, y'all wanted him gone. In fact, let me share with you here. Just to make that point. Here's Kamala Harris, 2024. We're offering $25 million for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela. Maybe Trump can collect from her. Kamala Harris, 2025. How dare Donald Trump arrest Nicolas Maduro? The Biden administration said on Friday that it's offering $25 million for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro after he assumed a third term in office, despite evidence suggesting that he lost Venezuela's recent election. Donald Trump's actions in Venezuela do not make America safe, stronger, or more affordable. That Maduro is a brutal, illegitimate dictator does not change the fact that this action was both unlawful and unwise. Really? Well, it worked. Unlike your Afghanistan pullout, this one worked. Wars for regime change or oil that are sold as strength but turn into chaos, and American families pay the price. So trust me, we know all about American families paying the price. Like, just go look at what's happening in Minnesota. Look what happened. Look at how many people paid the price for your failed leadership under the Biden administration. Lady Logic told me she's stocked up the fridge. She's going away on vacay in a couple of days. So she stocked up the fridge for me, and she told me eggs were 99 cents a carton. 99 cents a carton. When this boob over here left office, what was it, $8? 99 cents a carton. Eggs. You remember the whole egg crisis? The start of Trump's administration? 99 cents a carton. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So, Wally Lost, thank you for the very generous chat, brother. I assume you're a male. If you're wrong, I apologize. Secretary of State Mike Hatch promised no more recounts, no more ballots in trunks after Franken-Coleman excess 100% turnout in the Ellison Omar district next election. Now the baseline is set. Either the people in that district are too stupid or fraud. Okay, so yes, I remember how Al Franken stole that election before he was chased out of politics, the crooked, lying thief that he is. In Minnesota, fraud is, I didn't realize there was an excess of 100% turnout. I did not realize that. I knew that happened in Detroit. I did not know that happened in Minnesota as well. That would have been earlier. I wouldn't be surprised that there's fraud. There's only so much fraud you can make. That's what I'm saying. And you would assume that once I think that it can be, it potentially, with all the fraud that's been exposed here, it's potentially too big to rig for whichever Republican candidate comes out there. Hopefully they have someone who's strong and based, but that it's potentially too big to rig because, you know, at a certain point, Minnesotans have to say, how much more fraud can we keep supporting here? So, yeah, I do think they'll try to cheat. I think Democrats will try to cheat. That's what makes them Democrats, right? It's not about actually accomplishing something. It's about what we can make people believe we accomplished. So if they believe we won an election, if they believe that it's not our fault that crime is skyrocketing, inflation is skyrocketing, our policies are disastrous for the working man and actually counterproductive for the indigent. So all you have left is try to message and blame someone else, or message and try to pretend that you won an election. So yeah, that's not surprising. I learned a new term over the weekend. Consanguineous marriage? Consanguineous marriage. I've never heard that term before. That's a new one on me. I don't think I'm going to like this. Consanguineous marriage. Ooh. Consanguineous marriage is a union between people closely related by blood, such as first or second cousins, common in many cultures for social, economic, or traditional reasons. It significantly increases the risk of offspring inheriting rare genetic disorders like congenital heart defects, blood disorders, and intellectual disabilities due to shared recessive genes. While prevalent in parts of the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia, its practice varies globally. Okay. I'll tell you, first cousins getting married is creepy. That shouldn't be. I'm thinking second cousins. Second cousins is, to me, unsettling. But I've seen studies which indicate that actually now you're talking about, when you're talking about second cousins, so that means it's not their grandparents are the same. They have a shared set of great grandparents. That's already like, I don't think that's nearly the same thing at all. I'm curious about your take. What do you guys think? Second cousins, not first cousins. First cousins, that's wrong. First cousins means that your parents are siblings, which means that your grandparents are the same. But if it's second cousins, that means you're talking about your great grandparents. Okay. If it's fourth cousins, I think that's, you wouldn't even know you're related to them, right? First cousins is messed up. First cousins is messed up. Still sick. I'm getting. Well, thanks for the raid. Okay. You sort of need to have a cutoff at some point, right? I mean, you're probably married to your eighth cousin right now. Third or more is fine. I think third is fine. I think third is fine. I actually don't. I saw a I don't know anyone who's married to their second cousin. I can't think off the top of my head of anyone who's married to a second cousin. I don't know that. I saw a study about birds, which basically mate their second cousins. And that they actually that's like their natural instinct is to mate their second cousins. I don't remember what type of bird it was. But so that's why I had considered that in the past. First cousins is sickening. There's something deeply disturbing about you. Second cousins, I'm like, it feels uncomfortable. Third cousins, I don't think it's anything anymore. Joe, will you be there in person to cover the Maduro trial and anyone else in the Southern District of New York? Also, only if the second cousins are estranged. Okay. I'm not sure what estranged does, but if you meet your spouse at the family reunion, that's an ick. Okay. I get that. Seven times. It has to be 7. I think this is such a funny. So I'll tell you, I'm going to try to cover the Maduro trial. I will definitely try to cover that. I'm thinking about covering the Mangione trial. I really got to get that fixed up. I got to get my thing fixed up. I got to get a fresh license. All right, well, drop a comment after the show. Let me know what you think. How far removed? You can't tell me 20th cousins. Oh, no, that's sickening. Oh, ew. You're all married to your 20th cousin. You all are. One way or another. You are already. You don't know it's your great-grandparent, great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. You don't know, but they are. It doesn't mean you're all married to. I'm telling you right now, you're all married to your 20th cousin. I think you were married. If you go back enough generations, you're going to find that you're going to find that. So it's very easy to say, oh no, anyone who's remotely ever been related. I'm sorry. I mean, look. And before any of you get any twisted ideas, I'm telling you right now, I have absolutely zero. I can go back at least 6 generations and know that none of my ancestors have any bloodline with my wife. Okay. So this is not a personal thing. And I can say the same for all of my siblings. Like none of us know anyone, but I'm just, all right. You think Hegseth is going after Mark Kelly from Arizona? Oh, that's what you're trying to say. That's what you were getting at. I have a thing on Mark Kelly. All right. We should move on. Because This conversation is making me uncomfortable. It's kind of sickening. All right. Before I get into Trump, and I am going to spend a lot of time talking about Trump tonight. We are going to spend some time talking about Trump. There are a few relevant side things that I sort of wanted to talk about related to Maduro and what's going on here. Before I get to that, there was one other side thing. I was like, I don't know where to shove this in, but God bless Richard Parker who brought this up, because I had this little tweet here from Mark Hegseth that I wanted to share out, which I thought was interesting. So this is what Richard Parker is talking about. I didn't realize from your first one what you meant, but I do realize from your second one what you meant. And I think it's an important thing, important enough that I covered it. Bill Doe says, I remember fourth cousin at a family reunion tried to get fresh with my older brother once. She did meth. One of the clips that I don't think I've saved, and I have up there as my goal that I have like a dozen funny vids that I want to share with you if we hit our goal tonight. One of them was a bunch of folks at who they looked so tweaked out, like dressed for a wedding, and this person videoing was like, okay, so we got Chris is here and Annie, and like this panning around, and they all look like they're tweaking in like wedding gowns or like, you know, wedding attire. And the caption is, at the Crystal Methodist Church. The Crystal Methodist Church. That was funny. That was funny. I don't think I saved it. But at the Crystal Methodist Church. All right. 6 weeks ago, Pete Heggs is sharing out, Senator Mark Kelly, 5 other members of Congress released a reckless and seditious video that was clearly intended to undermine good order and military discipline. As a retired Navy captain who is still receiving a military pension, Captain Kelly knows he's still accountable to military justice. The Department of War and the American people expect justice. Therefore, in response to Senator Mark Kelly's seditious statements and his pattern of reckless misconduct, the Department of War is taking administrative action against Captain Mark E. Kelly, U.S. Navy retired. The department has initiated retirement grade determination proceedings under 10 U.S.C. 1370 subsection F. Should we pull that up? I haven't pulled this up yet. Which says, in general, except for conditional determination authorized to subsection D, determination of retired grade of an officer pursuant to this section is administratively final on the day the officer retired and may not be reopened, except as a final determination of retired grade of an officer may be reopened as follows. If the retirement or retired grade of the officer was procured by fraud, which that's not what we're talking about, if substantial evidence comes to light after retirement that could have led to termination of different retired grade, if mistake or law calculations made a termination of retired grade, or if the applicable secretary, which is Pete Hegseth, determines, pursuant to regulations prescribed by the Secretary of Defense, that good cause exists to reopen termination of retired grade. So Pete Hegseth says that's what I determined. With reduction of retired grade resulting in a corresponding reduction in retired pay. To ensure this action, the Secretary of War has also issued a formal letter of censure, which outlines the totality of Captain, for now, Captain, for now, Kelly's reckless misconduct. This is before we reduce him to like Ensign Kelly. This censure is a necessary process step and will be replaced in Captain Kelly's official and permanent military personnel file. Captain Kelly has been providing notice of the basis for the action and has 30 days to submit a response, which I can assure you he certainly will respond. The retirement grade determination process directed by Secretary Hegseth will be completed within 45 days. So we should be looking February 20th or so. Captain Kelly's status as a sitting U.S. Senator does not exempt him from accountability, and further violations could result in further action. These actions are based on Captain Kelly's public statements from June through December 2025, in which he characterized lawful military operations as illegal and counseled members of the armed forces to refuse lawful orders. This conduct was seditious in nature and violated Articles 133 and 134 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, to which Captain Kelly remains subject as a retired officer receiving pay. As Jim Hansen writes, speech is free. Undermining good morale discipline is not. Mark Kelly disgraced himself by attempting to suborn the authority of the commander-in-chief. He was fully aware his statements were designed to do that, and his action against him is not just authorized, it is necessary. So, the good people are all cheering. That's nice. That's nice. Once we're on this little side point here. Once on a side point. Because I just had like this collection of stuff that I was like, I just want to get through this stuff, like side stuff, before I get really hardcore into Trump. But this is about Maduro. I want to get into the whole, I'm starting to get into the whole Maduro thing. First and foremost, I don't know what the hell happened to Tucker Carlson. I think this man has literally lost his sanity. I think Tucker Carlson is someone needs to do a wellness check on this man.
We can safely discount democracy as a reason for affecting regime change in Venezuela. We're not
democracy. No one thinks it's democracy. This is about the fact that he's a drug kingpin who's harming us. Trump also said it's about the fact that he stole billions of dollars worth of oil from America. So, yeah, and he's a drug kingpin.
going to go kill Nicolas Maduro because we don't like the way he's treating his people.
We didn't kill him. We apprehended him.
It's possible we're mad that he doesn't allow gay marriage. That is a distinct possibility, but no.
What? A distinct possibility. I'm just asking questions. This is like the Candace Owens style of reporting. It could be. It could be. Maybe he's a Met fan and Trump is a big Yankee fan. Maybe. You know, it could be. Did Trump... I'm just asking questions. Did Trump actually kill him for... Did Trump actually apprehend him for being a Met fan? And what does this say about how he feels about other Met fans? Does that mean he can apprehend other Met fans? Is that what's going to happen next? I'm just asking questions. Because look, we all know Trump is a diehard Yankee fan. So, like, you know, why is it that all of a sudden, he happens to go all out to apprehend a Met fan? Gay marriage. Yeah, that's first and foremost. Trump is insistent that there has to be gay marriage across the world. What kind of ludicrous type of assertion is this? That's where you go to next. Okay, so I'm ruling out democracy. That's not what it's about. Next on the list as to why he would do it is because he wants to spread gay, because Trump wants to spread gay marriage to Venezuela. Because Trump is very invested in the married status of gay Venezuelans. That's what his whole deal has been about since day one. Trump has basically been like, look, I am sick and tired of all these Venezuelan men having to have illicit sexual relations rather than being sanctioned under the covenant of marriage. And this is something I've got to change. I don't care. I got to send in F-13s and we're going to bomb the hell out of the place. We're getting gay marriage in Venezuela if it's the last thing I do. This is what Tucker Carlson's assessment is. This guy, what happened to you? What happened to you? What is stupid? I mean, this is it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to me because I publicly admired this guy on this channel 2 years ago. Hey, listen to this guy. Listen to this guy. Hey, don't have any heroes. Your heroes are going to disappoint you. This is humiliating. He's about gay marriage. That's what this was. We're going to arrest him for gay marriage. I mean, you're a joke.
I'll say that out loud. Not defending the regime, just allow gay marriage. That is gay bull. It's possible we're mad that he doesn't allow gay marriage. That is a distinct possibility, but no one will say that out loud.
Because they sound insane? Because you sound like a lunatic? Because you sound like someone who's literally like you're snorting coke before you go on the air? Who the heck how many? That's not a coke thing. That sounds like crystal meth. I don't know what the hell's happening here. What's going on here? What happened to you?
Not defending the regime, just saying. One of the most conservative countries in North or South or Central America. Only El Salvador really comes close, which is much smaller, of course. And by the way, the U.S.-backed opposition leader who would take Maduro's place if he were taken out is, of course, pretty eager to get gay marriage in Venezuela.
This is what's governing. Are you living in 2008? What the hell is going on with you?
So those of you who thought this whole project was globo homo, not crazy, actually.
Actually, yes, it is. Actually, yes, it is. It's insane. It's insane. Unbelievable. I'm going to tell you right now, as a religious person, I certainly think that gay marriage is something that was kind of stupid. I think state-sponsored marriage in general is kind of stupid because marriage is a religious thing. So the notion of anyone getting married in the eyes of the state is a running joke. So then to try and twist it that now a religious institution has to try and sanction gay marriage, even if it's completely something that is foreign, alien, and stands 180 degrees in opposition to that religion is, to me, nonsense. But this all starts with the mess of having state-sponsored marriage. So, but to think that this issue in 2026 is something that is dictating policy for Donald Trump, that he needs to have those. That we need a marriage license for those gay Venezuelans.
Why are we trying to install this woman? It makes no sense.
Well,
we're trying to install her because of gay marriage.
Because she'll bring gay marriage to Venezuela, and that's important. I mean, that's what we stand for. We can safely.
Literally insane. You're insane. You're a crazy person. You're a crazy person. There's something wrong with you, Tucker. There's something you need help. You need help. That's your best conclusion. That's your soundest political perspective. This is what it must be. What else could it be? Can't figure out anything else. It's gotta be that. Oh my God. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I thought he was much more sane than Candace until I saw this clip, and I was just like, I don't even know. He's not even trying anymore. We have secretly placed Tucker's brain with Folgers crystal meth. The best part of waking up. Best part of waking up.
Major breaking political news
That's
out
not
of
something I want. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I had a little pop-up here. Which, that's just par for the course. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Gotcha. can close out that whole section there. All right. This is where I want to go back to next. I wanted to go on to this video. This is not the video here. Sorry, this is the video I wanted to see. So I want to watch this guy here, and he comes up with a theory as to what really happened with the raid. And I'm going to preface this by telling you, unlike the deranged lunatic fantasies of Tucker Carlson of oh my God, how did anyone fall that far that fast, Tucker Carlson? Here is a theory that to me, I'm like, that kind of, I can kind of see that. Jacob Castro raided my stream. God bless you, brother. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. I mean, after he got rid of the bow tie. Yeah, so here's a theory that to me, I'm like, okay, this is an interesting theory. And the theory is basically that maybe Nicolas Maduro knew they were coming and left his doors open for him to actually be apprehended. And I think that this is an interesting thought, which could be true. I don't have volume here. Give me volume.
Now, if you look at the history of these types of extractions, the U.S. took out Saddam Hussein from a hole in the ground. Did they take his wife with them? When SEAL Team 6 took out Osama bin Laden, did they extract his wives with him to face a U.S. court? Then when El Chapo was captured, his wife was nowhere to be found. But yesterday, they extracted Maduro's wife, Celia Flores, right beside him. And you don't bring a wife on a high-stakes surgical strike unless the wife is a closing cost to a negotiation. That's not a capture. That could be seen as an evacuation. Now, General Raisin Kane tells us that they arrived with massive blowtorches ready to cut through steel in the safe rooms. They were prepared essentially for a siege. But the moment the doors opened, they didn't even need the torches. Kane said the targets came out and were compelled to surrender almost instantly. Now, does that sound like a man who was fighting to the death like Maduro said he was going to do, or a man who was basically waiting for his ride? And then there's Maduro's son, who was named in the indictment. Nicolásito, or who's considered to be the prince, right? He's at large. He's missing. Could it be the perfect narrative cover, a public manhunt to keep the world's eyes busy? Well, the kid is quietly moved through a back channel to join his parents in the Ultimate Witness Protection Program. Now, we may never know the truth behind the curtain, but whether those doors were forced or left unlocked, the result is an absolute masterpiece. The people of Venezuela are free. The U.S. just secured the intelligence gold mine of the century. And when the lights of Caracas on Friday night went out, the doors opened without a fight. But could it be that the man who wrote the book just gave the world a masterclass in the art of the deal? 30 minutes. Now think about that. For 25 years, the regime that looked like an iron fortress, Chavez built it, Maduro locked it down, and for a quarter of a century, the world called it untouchable. Then in the dark of the night on Friday, the United States military walks in and ends the whole thing in less time than it takes to watch a Netflix sitcom. Now the world's cheering. Venezuela has its future back, and America has this historic victory, which is phenomenal. But as the smoke begins to clear, you have to ask yourself, could this possibly be that we just witnessed something even bigger than a raid? Now, I want you to think about the context for a moment, because just in October, Donald Trump sat in front of the press and told the world Maduro reached out to him. He said he offered everything. He said the guy doesn't want to F around with the U.S. Now, in another world, that's a headline, but in Trump's world, that's a spoiler for the season finale. Is it possible that the deal was already signed, sealed, and delivered months ago? Because here's the reality. A man like Maduro, a man who knows every single Mexican cartel and Colombian cartel drug route, every Chinese fentanyl shipment, and every terrorist contact in the hemisphere, he cannot just walk away with the suitcase in his hand. If he surrenders at an airport, his own generals are going to put a bullet in his head before he clears the tarmac. He needed a legend. He needed a story that said he was overwhelmed by an empire. Not that he sold out his partners for a safe house and witness protection, but the tells are really everywhere. Now, if you look at the history of these types of extractions,
so basically, it can go in a circle like that. That was the part we started with. So basically, I never heard of Joey Vantis before. I stumbled on this. He's basically alleging that, hey, look, maybe, just maybe, Trump negotiated with Maduro that he'll come out and Trump will pick him up. And that's what this whole thing was. And he has to make it look like a raid, but that there was minimal resistance purposefully set up by Maduro. No one really being fired on. The only people who seemed to be fired on were Cubans, who he wouldn't be telling the Cubans that, hey, I'm leaving the door open for him. Not too many Argentinian forces that got killed. So this basically sounds like it's possible that Nicolas Maduro came along willingly, and that much of their negotiations was, how do we play this? And if in fact that is what happened here, I'm not saying it did, but it definitely, there's logic to what he's saying there. It is very strange that the wife is being named. If you were with me last night during the final hour of my show, when I was breaking down the indictment charges against Nicolas Maduro and his wife, I pointed out that there's really very little there on the wife. It's almost as if that was sort of like a throw-in, which if you're going to pick her up to help evacuate her so the two of them can join a witness protection program, well, in that case, you need to charge the wife also, so that this way you have a basis for why are you wiping up the wife? You a taxi cab? You want to keep them together? And he didn't seem to be like, screaming and cursing. Yeah, when he goes into court, he'll say, I was kidnapped. That's of course what his lawyers are going to say, which is what he said when he was arraigned earlier today. He said, hey, I've been kidnapped and I shouldn't be here, and I'm just a peaceful president. But that's what he would say. That's what his lawyers are going to have him say. So to me, that doesn't mean very much as far as refuting this potential narrative. But I'm curious about your thoughts, because I do think that this is a possible scenario. And if so, I would tip my cap to Donald Trump for this, because he basically said, hey, we're going to use this as an opportunity to help America flex and get him to give us evidence that we feel is going to be beneficial to the United States and put him in witness protection. So you're saying I'm saying, nah, it's rather clever, interesting thought. I'm not saying this is what happened, but what I'm saying is I can't definitively rule this out. And I think it's an interesting thought, because it is unusual that you make a raid and you pick up the wife too. I understand she's named in the indictment, but like I said, she's not a major player in that indictment. It's almost like she's like, okay, let's throw her in. The charges against her are very, very, they're very shallow compared to the charges against him or virtually anyone else listed in that complaint. I'm not saying there's not enough there to stick, but it's like, I'm sure that Mrs. Guerrero, Nicholas Guerrero is another person there. I'm sure she was also involved also. But she wasn't named in the indictment. The only woman named in the indictment is Maduro's wife. Not too many women are part of drug cartels. I'm not saying there are none, but I've seen Breaking Bad also. So I'm not saying there are none. I'm just saying not too many are major players. So it happens to be his wife is such a major player that she's the one we're naming in the indictment. But if it's an evacuation, then you have to name her in the indictment to justify why you're picking her up. So I think that it's possible. I think it's very possible. It would explain a lot. It would explain just how successful this raid was, that no one seemed to even be shot at, that they didn't need the blowtorches, that they have the wife now. And yeah, I don't think he could just walk out with a suitcase full of information and help him out, but that they could, and provide information. So we're not going to see this until we see what happens with the progression of this trial and whether he stands trial and what would end up happening with that if he were to be convicted, and how the sentencing would work and things of that nature. But we will find that out over the next year. We'll find that we'll start seeing the answers to this in 2026. And I think it's a very interesting theory. Alex Jones is a believer in this theory too. He goes a little further. as to the nature of testimony that he thinks we're going to be getting from Maduro.
And it's about Venezuela being the base of election fraud. And we'll get the clips of that coming up.
So now he's basically saying that the evidence that Donald Trump is looking for, it relates to election fraud. That I struggle to really accept.
And it is about shutting off the money laundering and the drug dealing. It's already plummeting.
That I think is more likely.
It's about exercising American will and America making the decisions, not the globalists, not BlackRock, not the UN, but the president we elected. And quite frankly, I said, don't go in, even though you have the right and I can see that you're going to do it. And I know why. And if you do it, I'll back it. But I think it's a very dangerous gamble because, again, they'll leak the information to the Venezuelans. And Trump talked about that yesterday. And I had inside sources say, oh, they were just ready Christmas. 4 other times. They had helicopters, jets, everything. It was a go order. And then Trump was going to do the final order. And minutes before, even when our aircraft were over Venezuela, he would say, abort. And it wasn't just because of weather. He was doing it under good advice from Hegseth so that they wouldn't know when the real attack came. And they were also planning disinformation to track who in Congress and who in the Pentagon is leaking. I mean, this is, on those fronts, this is a new Trump. And he doesn't have control of the Justice Department.
So Alex Jones claiming to have inside information that says that there were 4 previous times that they started this run and basically knocked out Venezuela. So this way, like, by the 5th time, it's like they're not thinking this is any different than the 4 previous times. And this sort of like priming the meat to before they go in there and actually drop the spice. So they're basically priming it. So you start like being like, oh, here comes another air raid. Okay, fine. This is another thing, like another time, and we know it's just them bluffing. And then they come in there. But here's the thing: if that's what you think is happening, that is not Maduro agreeing to it. That's you tricking Maduro. I'm just trying to think about this. I'm trying to approach this logically. I'm not going to claim inside information. I'm not going to say definitively this is what happened. I'm simply telling you what seems to me to make sense, that I can accept this. Now, you can try and walk me through why you think I'm mistaken, and if what you're saying is logical, my mind can certainly be changed on this. But I think there are a lot of reasons to believe that this is possibly what actually happened. And I don't think it's in any way detracts from this raid or anything of that nature. Still need to have all the coordination to get it done. And frankly, in certain ways, if this is what Trump did, it's a different type of brilliance that he's displaying here. Because ultimately, to the entire world, it looks as if this was a phenomenal raid, even if it was to some degree staged by Maduro. But Alex Jones isn't claiming that it was staged, because when Alex Jones comes out here and now he's making a claim that, hey, they ran this 4 times. The reason you would run it 4 times and then back out, presumably, would be to sort of lull Maduro into having a false sense of security, that when the alarms start going off saying, hey, the lights are going out, that you shouldn't hide into some new bunker, but that he would just basically, remain in place. Or at the very least, even if he would run to a new bunker, that we would be able to some way monitor which bunker he's running to. And that way plot for how to actually attack that bunker that he runs to. But that's something you would only need to do if Maduro is not a willing participant in this, right? You wouldn't have to run it through that test run 4 times, because otherwise, if Maduro is a willing participant, you just need to do it once. And just the first time, just go in there and get him. He's going to basically be standing there with his suitcase ready to go, right? He's not going to be his pajamas. He's going to basically be like, all right, it took you so long. I thought you guys were going to be here 20 minutes ago. I got an episode of Friends I need to watch. Well, we call it Amigos. But I think it's an interesting theory. So he's saying that he's going to come in here and turn state evidence about Dominion or the election fraud. I don't believe that Maduro has any helpful information about a funky election work in America. Why on earth would Biden or anyone in Biden's orbit have been consulting with Maduro to like? You wouldn't need to consult with them. You go to Dominion people or other people. You would need to consult with Maduro. So I don't really buy that. That to me sounds like your Sydney. What's her name? I keep forgetting that. What's her name? That crazy woman who was basically QAnoning us in late 2020. Sidney Powell.
Such a viper's nest, but he does have control of the Pentagon by and large.
He does. Trump does have control of the Pentagon.
So that's a big deal. But let me hit the Monroe Doctrine right now, then I'll get into the big one. Maduro had a chance to leave with $200 million to Switzerland or several other places that were taken. He refused. He tried to play big boy, as Rubio said. And now they're going to come to him and say, listen, you give us the networks, the money, how he uses diplomatic planes to ship the drugs around, the money, which is on record. You turn evidence against
the Kraken woman,
Democrat Party operatives, and we're going to let your ass go. And I think there's about a 90% chance Maduro turns against him. And folks, when this house of cards starts falling perfectly this year, the 250th anniversary of this country, what a present. And Trump intends all of this to be going and done by July 4th. And that's what I've been told.
We'll see.
And the only reason I got read in a little bit on policy was because I already knew the policy. I'd already understood it. And I had policymakers, people ask me in the last 8-9 months, well, how do you know this? How do you know the whole plan? Obviously, I mean, under a lot of surveillance too, by the good guys and bad guys. And I said, well, it's completely all obvious right there. I mean, Trump said what he's doing. I understand the policy. I get it. I got it before he ever got in office. This is what I would do. Operation 1776 worldwide. I wrote policy papers, 9 years ago and 8 years ago to Trump on this plan. This was part of the plan. I mean, I do a lot of serious work, folks.
All right. So I don't know. Some of that stuff there, I'm a little bit like, really, dude? Okay, maybe. I don't know. It's possible. What do I know? I don't know what you know. I take some of that with a grain of salt. What he was saying there at the end, about the knowledge that he has because he understands policy. That's why, I don't know, does that mean you were told or you figured this out? Like, I'm not sure what he's trying to say. I don't have high aspirations that, but July 4th, we're going to, the entire world, that sounds like QAnon talk to me. I think that's a little sus. But he certainly seems to play along with the fact that there's an expectation that Nicolas Maduro is going to end up turning state witness, which is consistent with that theory. He's going to turn state witness. He may. Old school Joe, 2 women in my life were affected by what Trump did. My girlfriend, who came to us as a Venezuelan refugee, and my sister, who died because of bad fentanyl. President Trump is the wind of change. He is awesome. He is amazing. I'm happy for those women in your life. Well, I mean, sorry about your sister, but at least you feel as if like this problem is starting to be ameliorated. This guy needs to stop drinking conspiracy Kool-Aid. The wife was a target of the exact same indictment as Nikki. He was, Felzu, but I read through the indictment. The charges against her are microscopic. What she's done is nothing compared to what he did. Like nothing. Yeah, one time that she met with someone and that she benefited by taking money, which any wife would benefit from being would benefit financially from being the wife of a drug kingpin. So not usually the heart of a major indictment that we're listing 5 people and one of them is, Maduro's wife. 4 dudes and Maduro's wife. I struggle to believe that if there were women involved in this operation, that she was the one. I mean, look, it was his wife. Maybe he trusted her to be more involved, but I don't know. I understand she's in the indictment. That would be how you cover up. Imagine if it was an extraction that you're going to planning, and Maduro's agreeing that he's going to come into witness protection and that you're going to stage this whole thing. Don't you think he would say, "I want my wife to come along too"? I mean, assuming that he loves his wife. Not everyone does, but assuming that he loves his wife, and he would say, "Hey, I want her to come along too." And we'd be like, "Well, how do we do that?" Oh, okay, let's charge her and say that she's an integral part of this whole thing. Like I said, it's a theory, and I could be talked out of it, but this doesn't talk me out of it. That doesn't mean that someone couldn't come up with something to knock it out, but for now, my theory, I'm still saying it's a logical theory. Prince of God, according to people in Venezuela, she was hated more than him. She was behind a ton of their ops. To say he and his wife were in on it at this point is called Trump and Rubio liars. They explicitly said that wasn't the case. I didn't see where they explicitly said that. I did not see where they explicitly said that. Appreciate the 20. Thank you. I did not see where they explicitly said that. If this was staged, what would be the point of saying that we staged it? I can point something out to you, Prince of God. You've been here long enough to know. If I ask you right now, I'm going to look at the chat, and I'm going to ask you, which American was the most evil American in American history? I'm going to look at the chat here, and I expect that I'm going to see at least 10 people give the correct answer, because I've said this many times on this show, the most evil American in history. Still living. You should all come to this. You should all come to this on your own. Still living. You want to say Woodrow Wilson? Okay, fine. Maybe Lincoln. You want to talk about still living? You're all saying it. Obama. It was Obama, not Clinton. No. I've said many times, Obama, that he's divided this country in ways that seem irreconcilable. He's destroyed this country. I've said that many, many times. Despite my vehement disgust for that human being, the human trash, who's still continuing to destroy this country, I still say that I will probably go to my grave believing that he did not kill Obama, that he lied. And he lied to the American people, that he didn't kill, that he did not kill bin Laden. I don't think he killed him. I think bin Laden died. And I think that once they found out he was dead, that they staged an op to make it look as if they got him. And the reason you would stage that op would be to make Americans feel as if we weren't cheated of our justice. We weren't robbed of justice. But that, we got him. And I said, that's why they got rid of the body right away. There are a lot of reasons I came to this conclusion. I don't know if I'll ever be proven right or wrong on this. But I don't believe we killed him. I believe he died, and then he staged an op, which was designed to make it look like we got him. And I said, at the time it happened, I don't think we got him. I think he was just dead. He was an old man. He was an old man when 9/11 happened. But and I still maintain that position to this day. And still, even though that evil man, most evil man in American history, arguably, most destructive man in American history, arguably, even though he is such an evil man, and even though this was a lie, I think this is a good lie. I mean, this is a lie that's healthy. I think it's a lie that's good for the American psyche. I think it's healthy for the people who lost loved ones on 9/11. It's good for them to feel as if we got justice. So, irrespective of my utter disgust and contempt for Barack Hussein Obama, I will tell you that this is considered a lie. I think that this is a good lie. And you can create this entire operation purely to stage that lie. My point being that I try to look at things objectively. It's not about who the man is. It's a matter of, is this in the American interest or not? And I think that spreading that lie is in the American interest, because there was a palpable feeling of despair after 9/11, which was not going to really be cast off until we felt we got justice, specifically in getting justice against bin Laden. So being cheated out of that would have hurt. It would have stung. And he made sure that we didn't feel that way. And I think it's arguably the best thing he ever did in his life, assuming that it was a lie. I think it's arguably the best call of his life, of his presidency. Certainly of his presidency. So my point being that I can understand someone lying, because this is something that's considered in the American, a president lying to the people, because it's in the best interest of America and Americans, and that irrespective of whether he's a good person or an evil person, a good president or a terribly disastrous president, that act of lying, staging an operation for the purposes of selling a lie, is not something that I'm saying, oh, you're a bad person for lying. I'm saying, no, that's actually arguably one of the best works that you can do. Similarly, much like I've given Obama that pass, if in fact Rubio and Trump are lying to us and saying that this was not something they agreed to, that's why you wouldn't stage this entire operation and then say, yeah, we did it to extract him. You would lie to the American people, and it would be a good lie. Same way Obama's lie was a good lie. This would be a good lie. So I don't look at it as if it's a character failing in Trump and Rubio. And I don't look as if I'm you're implying that I'm doing something, I'm attacking Trump or Rubio by saying that they're lying. What I'm saying is I didn't hear them say it, but even if they did say it, that doesn't mean it wouldn't be a good lie, a healthy lie, so that we can actually, get the objective that we were seeking for when isn't, assuming it was staged and they are lying, it would be stupid to tell the truth. Then why stage the whole thing in the first place, right? That would be dumb. So, and it would be a good lie. So I don't look at that as an attack on them. And I still would tip my cap to them for coming up with this entire plan. But we wouldn't find out about it tomorrow. We'd start seeing more signs of it as based on how the case against Maduro progresses. This is how you get admission of guilt, drop wives. Are you saying you charge the wife and then get her to say, we'll let the wife out if you confess? That's true. It's possible. That's possible. That's a good thought you're making. That you trump up the charges against the wife for the purposes of saying, all right, we'll let your wife go if you confess to your crimes. But very possible. Very, very possible. It's a good thought. And one I hadn't really considered in this case, and I should have. So I'm glad you brought that up. All right. This is what I have left for you guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I don't know if we're going to get to all this. I don't know if we're going to get to all this. We spent much longer on Tim Walz than I anticipated. All right, let me see what we can. I definitely need to talk about the arraignment. Let's get into the arraignment. Breaking now, chaos outside Manhattan Federal Courthouse as real Venezuelan exiles clash with pro-Maduro leftist protesters demanding his release. The paid commie protesters have no idea what they're protesting. This is what I passed up on going to this morning. I could have been there. I've been in this location many times. Every time I went down to the Diddy trial, I passed right by this gate.
What part of Venezuela you are? 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 You are not from my country. You are not from my country. You are not from my country. You are not from my country.
No volverá. No volverá. We want justice, you say how. Release Maduro right now. Release Maduro right now.
Ay, tono de mí, hija de puta, perra, nigger.
In case you're confused, these people over here that we see, these are the paid protesters.
That's what needs to get done. Not to U.S. Not to the people that are Gaza, out of everything that's built by nigger, africana.
That's the real Venezuela.
Country, you are not from the country. Don't be stupid. You are not from my country.
That's also real Venezuelan.
I love the Marine. God bless America. You support his imprisonment.
La mejor operación quirúrgica que necesitaba el pueblo venezolano. No importa, no me importa eso. ¿Cuántos miles de venezolanos? ¿Cuántos miles de venezolanos? He did it. Right there, you said thank you. Get him the fuck out of here. No, it's over.
Language. So that's what's going on outside the courthouse. You get the general gist of it. You know how much these people are paid to come out there? Because this, look, you know it's happening, but this report that I saw that was shared by Wall Street Apes, that was on Fox, this is pretty astonishing what I'm about to show you. You need to see this. Stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing and watch this clip with me. I don't care what you're doing. Just stop what you're doing and watch this clip with me because this is astonishing. I'm about to astonish you. They aren't even hiding anymore. Democrat DNC paid protester requests surged 400%. They're all being paid. The range can be from the low hundreds into a few hundred per protester, per protest. This is a guy whose business is to provide protesters. He gets paid, and he pays protesters to go out there. This dude right here, this douchebag, this douchey-looking dude here, that's what his business is. And he's about to admit it.
Lawrence, it's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Well, it's great to have you. I'm really intrigued with your business.
I mean, he looks like he's stoned out of his mind. But
Business model. So, for example, how much are you paying these protesters in Washington, D.C.?
Well, when protesters, we don't comment on specific protests, but generally the range can be from the low hundreds, the low 100s.
Crowds on Demand is the name of his company. The CEO, Adam Swartz, scum.
Comment on specific protests, but generally the range can be from the low hundreds, the low 100s into a few hundred. It really depends on the location, the duration, and any challenges that, for example, cold weather or early morning. You guys at Fox and Friends know all about getting up early in the morning. We tend to pay people more in that. Obviously, everything Crowds on Demand does is peaceful and law-abiding protest. There's a law. Lawrence, it's a pleasure to.
That's astonishing. That's astonishing. This guy has a business where he provides protesters, pays them hundreds of dollars. God only knows what he gets, what his rake on it is. But he has a thriving business, no doubt, with his crowds on demand, providing protesters to go out there and bark like idiots and basically pretend that there's interest in some sort of perspective. It sounds like a lot of things. A wimp is definitely one of them. Yeah, it's basically he runs Rent-A-Mob. It's astonishing. It's astonishing. Is that free speech? I want to see who his clients are. That's what I want to see. I want to see who his clients are. Oh, he's very proud of it. He wants to advertise. He wants people to come. He wants people. He needs people to work for him. Yeah, obviously George Soros and Alex Soros are two people who use it a lot. I'm sure not the only ones. And I agree with you. He's a cog. But the existence of these cogs is what's so horrifying. That they're so brazen about it. The mindset is anything for a buck. Anything for a buck. So I wanted to share that with you. So when you see these protesters, you need to understand they literally are paid. And there's, there are machines in place to actually ensure that they're out there protesting. That's how they're able to arrange it so fast. That's why they all have the same stupid signs. It'll be interesting. It'd be interesting. I wonder if they assemble somewhere. It'd be really interesting to find out like how that operation works. It'd be really, really interesting to me. So that was outside his arraignment. Inside the arraignment of Nicolas Maduro, he said, top New York Post reports toppled Venezuelan despot. Nicolas Maduro declares himself a decent man, claims he was kidnapped by U.S. forces as he pleads not guilty in New York City. Toppled, ruthless Venezuelan despot and accused narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro defiantly claimed Monday that he was kidnapped while making his historic first appearance in chains in Manhattan courts. Can we get rid of you? The 63-year-old deposed dictator, his legs shackled and wearing blue and orange jail garb, entered the courtroom flanked by U.S. Marshals after his attorney made for Hollywood capture Saturday. Extraordinary made for Hollywood capture on Sunday. The ousted South American tyrant, acting as if he still commanded power on the world stage, pronounced "Happy New Year" in English to reporters packed into the jury box, then again to those in the gallery before greeting his lawyers and taking his seats. Maduro, notorious for torturing, imprisoning, and starving his countrymen while in power, almost immediately interrupted his appearance with a proclamation of his innocence when 92-year-old federal judge Alvin Hellerstein, who I understand is actually an Orthodox Jew. I don't know that that's true, but someone at the affair I was at this evening claimed that he's an Orthodox Jew. They're like, how does it that you got an Orthodox Jew? I didn't even know there was an Orthodox Jew sitting in the Southern District of New York. That's a good thing. If he's an Orthodox Jew, that's a very good thing. If he's not an Orthodox Jew, that should be concerning. But an Orthodox Jew usually is going to be pretty based. Judge Alvin Hellerstein asked him to confirm his identity. Quote, I'm the president of the Republic of Venezuela. I'm here kidnapped. I was charged in my house in Caracas, Venezuela. The infamous suspect wearing black headphones for his translation feed whined in Spanish before the judge stopped him. Hellerstein shot back, let me interfere. There'll be a time and place to go into all of this. Your counsel will be able to make motions. At this time, I just want to know one thing. Are you Nicolas Maduro Moros? The judge asked. The infamous dictator replied, I am Nicolas Maduro Moros. The judge, an appointee of former President Bill Clinton, then informed Maduro of his rights, including that he didn't have to speak and that he can have a court-appointed lawyer if he can't afford a private one. In court with Maduro was legal eagle Barry Pollock, who famously negotiated the release of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange in 2024, and is helping to rep the beleaguered Venezuelan, hinting his defense will question the legality of the U.S. action to capture Maduro in the first place. Maduro, when asked by Hellerstein if he was aware of his rights, responded, I did not know of these rights. Your Honor is informing me of them now, said the despised leader, who the international community has condemned for routinely rigging elections in his favor through the years. The judge then formally arraigned Maduro on the charges against him, including a range of narco-terrorism, drug and weapons offenses that could carry the death penalty. Really? I didn't see that. Maduro and his wife were charged with working with drug cartels to ship thousands of tons of cocaine into the U.S. for more than 20 years between 1999 and 2025. Maduro also is charged with narco-terrorism for allegedly working with terror groups, and both are separately charged with cocaine importation conspiracy. Additionally, Maduro and Flores are charged with possessing machine guns and conspiracy to possess machine guns. 25-page indictment on sealed Saturday contains some additional details that they both ordered kidnappings, beatings, and murders of people, that they're responsible for the murder of a local drug boss, and that they secured an indictment of him in 2020. The new version adds Maduro's wife and his son. See, that's the new version. That's the new version. The old version didn't have him. That's the new one. The case comes just a few years after U.S. prosecutors brought another drug trafficking case in the same courthouse against another South American head of state, former Honduras President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Hernandez was sentenced in June 2024 to serve 45 years. But in December, President Trump pardoned him, claiming he was treated unfairly by U.S. authorities. Maduro, clad in prison-issued orange shoes, beige pants, and a blue shirt over an orange shirt, with his hands left unshackled, was asked Monday how he pleaded, then started spouting again, I'm innocent. I'm not guilty. I'm a decent man. I'm still president of my country. He furiously scribbled notes on a yellow legal pad during the proceedings while continuing to denounce the indictment against him. I'm not guilty of anything that is mentioned here, he said. Maduro asked at one point that his notes be respected and they'd be entitled to keep them, an unusual request Hellerstein agreed to without hesitation. I can understand why he would agree to that. That sounds like attorney-client work. Like it's part of his Sixth Amendment right to consult with an attorney. One of the more bizarre moments of the proceeding occurred when Maduro was proclaiming his innocence and Venezuelan tried to yell from the gallery, Hamas. Spanish word translates to never, but it's pronounced like Hamas in English. Hamas. Also named a Palestinian terror organization. The noisy onlooker identified himself as 33-year-old Pedro Rojas, later stood up as Maduro was leaving the court and further heckled the ousted tyrant in Spanish, claiming him an illegitimate president who will now face real justice. Maduro turned to face him and said, I'm a man of God and I'm a prisoner of war, as he was led out of the courtroom. His wife, Celia Flores, 69, entered the courtroom along with her husband in a similar set of jail-issued clothing. The pair had been whisked by a dystopian-looking armored Bearcat vehicles from the notorious Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn hours earlier to a helicopter pad in the borough. They were then flown to a landing site in Wall Street in Manhattan and brought to Bearcat to federal court under ultra-tight security involving machine gun-clad law enforcement. I guess they're afraid that there might be some uprising against them by his cartels. The couple each had their handcuffs removed before they got into the courtroom. Flores' blonde hair was tied back in a bun, and she had two bandages on her face, one over her right eyelid and another on her forehead, involving injuries that her private lawyer, Mark Donnelly, said she sustained during her abduction. Donnelly said Flores would need to undergo a full x-ray to ensure her health while in federal custody, given her significant injuries, including possible rib fracture and bruising. Flores, asked by the judge to identify herself at the hearing, replied, "I'm the First Lady of the Republic of Venezuela." She told the judge she's completely innocent when quizzed about her plea. This is them being brought in. Pollock, who also questioned the legality of Maduro's capture, said that although the fallen Venezuelan strongman was not seeking immediate release, he may submit a bail application at a later date. Hellerstein has previously ruled against President Trump and his administration in unrelated cases. For example, he twice rejected overtures to move a case involving alleged hush money payments to Trump's reputed one-time mistress, adult film star Stormy Daniels. No, that's not a good sign. No, that's not a good sign. Judge also issued an order in May blocking the administration from using the Alien Enemies Act as grounds for deporting illegal migrants. That's not a good sign either. Maybe he's not religious. I don't know. I don't know who Hellerstein is. I've never met him. Several hundred protesters were out in force outside the courthouse, as we saw. Anyway. So that was the question of the day, is the legality, and that's something that I think we're going to be seeing a lot of. Look, I want to do further research on the legality issue. My initial take on this is that there's nothing remotely illegal about what happened here. That the capturing him, someone who was wanted for being a narco-terrorist for ages. So his capture here, to think that it's in any way, shape, or form illegal or needs sanctioning from Congress sounds like bananas to me. In the War Powers Act, Trump is able to do whatever he wants for up to 60 days in any foreign country. And we've seen how that gets extended out over and over again, going all the way back to the Korean War, the Vietnamese War. Yes, eventually there should be some sort of sanctioning that happens from Congress to some degree. But yeah, he's able to do whatever he wants for up to 60 days. So I don't think that anything he did here is remotely illegal. Now you want to claim it's a violation of civil rights? I don't know where there's a violation of civil rights. Presumably there were, I'm curious to know whether there was a warrant for his arrest that was signed off by a judge. That's an interesting question. Because it is an uncommon thing to see that someone is just apprehended by authorities. And then I guess you would have to have a question, is there a duty for that apprehension to be signed off on a judge the same way it would be if it was an American citizen? But I need to look into that. That's an issue of law I'm unfamiliar with. My general philosophical take is that folks who are not American citizens are not extended the same civil rights that we should and must apply to all American citizens. I don't even think people who are visiting this country should be getting similar rights to what we have. I know the Supreme Court disagrees with me on that. So now we're talking about the civil rights of someone who is not even in the country. And you would think that that would be less than whatever standard the civil rights protections American citizens have. Visitors who are here legally should have a lower standard. Visitors who are here illegally should have an even lower standard. And someone who's not in the country should, in my estimate, my philosophical perspective, it should be bare minimum if existent at all. So that's what we got there. But the UN was a titter today. They were a titter. Everyone was all buzzing out over Donald Trump today. U.S. allies and adversaries use UN meeting to critique Venezuela intervention as America defends it. They're all freaked out. Why are they so freaked out? I'm going to tell you why they're so freaked out. Because this was Trump basically swinging that BDE in a way that was scaring the bejesus out of the rest of the world. This should not bother anyone who actually loves America. The left loves to scream like, oh no, the rest of the world doesn't like us. If the rest of the world likes us, that means we're being pussies. And it means we're being wimps. It means we're basically we're kissing up to them. So whatever the UN crying about what Trump does, that's a sign of his success. Both allies and adversaries in the United States of America are using an emergency meeting in the UN Security Council to voice opposition to the audacious U.S. military operation in Venezuela captured leader Nicolas Maduro. Before the UN's most powerful body, countries critiqued, or sometimes obliquely, President Donald Trump's intervention in South American country and his recent comments signaling the possibility of expanding military action to countries like Colombia and Mexico over drug trafficking accusations. That's why they're all so freaked out. This is the Monroe Doctrine. If you're unfamiliar with that term, created by President Monroe, it was his notion that the United States of America has an interest in the entire complex of the Americas. South America, Central America, they are all in our interests. And and basically saying that this is our half of the world. And if there's an issue of concern anywhere in the Western Hemisphere, on this side of the Atlantic, we are going to make it our business. That's what the Monroe Doctrine stood for. Obama specifically declared the Monroe Doctrine to be dead. Trump has rather overtly said, well, it's back, baby. It's back. Now, I don't like the idea of the Monroe Doctrine of being applied towards launching troops all around. I don't want to see that. But as far as basically making South and Central America do our bidding, with occasional incursions like the one we saw the other night, that I'm fine with. I think that's a good thing. The Republican president also has re-upped his threat to take over Danish territory or Greenland for the sake of U.S. security interests. Denmark, which has jurisdiction over the mineral-rich island, carefully denounced U.S. prospects for taking over Greenland without mentioning its NATO ally by name. The inviolability of borders is not up for negotiation, said Christina Marcus Lassen, Danish ambassador to the UN. I think I have a clip of her. Do I have that clip of her? Here it is.
Dinamarca desea recordar nuestra solidaridad con el pueblo venezolano. Dinamarca no reconoce a Nicolás Maduro como presidente legítimo de Venezuela, tras la falta de transparencia e integridad de las elecciones.
This is what happens when I don't pre-screen. I was just like, oh, okay. Here's the Denmark UN envoy expressing her full side of Venezuelan people. I was like, that's what I'm going to be looking for. So I just sort of did a quick search and I didn't bother listening. So that's not very helpful, Joe. All right. She also defended Venezuela's sovereignty, saying no state should seek to influence political outcomes in Venezuela through the use of threat, force, or through other means inconsistent with international law. U.S. allies pushed back on Venezuela. While French President Emmanuel Macron recently endorsed Maduro's capture, its UN envoy was slightly more critical Monday, saying any violations of international law by the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, which includes the U.S., erodes the very foundation of international order. Well, the UN is a joke anyway. The military operation that has led to the capture of Maduro runs counter to the principle of peace dispute resolution, they're all angry. They're so angry that Trump was flexing. Counts the principle of non-use of force, said Jay Dharmadikari, Deputy French Ambassador to UN. U.S. Envoy Mike Walz defended the operation in Venezuela as a justified and surgical law enforcement operation, calling out the 15-member council for criticizing the targeting of Maduro. If the UN, United Nations in this body confers legitimacy on an illegitimate narco-terrorist with the same treatment in this charter of a democratically elected president or head of state, what kind of organization is this? One we should leave. That's what we should do. Leave. Throw them out. We are done with you. Maduro's 2024 re-election was widely disputed. UN Secretary General, apparently the exit poll showed that he lost by like 5 million. Like it was like 7 million to 2 million. And then he declared himself the winner. He's like, oh, we got to finish up the count. And the next thing you know, he won. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in a statement that he's deeply concerned that the rules of international law have not been respected with regard to the January 3rd military action. He said the grave action by the U.S. could set a precedent for how future relations between nations unfold. What he's actually saying is, oh my God, Trump might do this again to one of us. That's what he's saying. That's what they are all saying. They're like, oh, F. That's what this is. When you see their criticism, what they're actually thinking is, oh, heck, oh, F me. Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no. That is what they are all thinking when they saw what Trump did. That's how you know America is great again. Because they're like, hey, you can't be doing that. Don't be doing that. Or, oh, we're gonna pass a motion to say that we're sanctioning you. Okay. What does that mean? It means we're gonna put on the bulletin board here that you're a bad man. Okay, and what does that do? It's gonna be up there on your permanent record. And then everyone's gonna know you were a bad person. And then we might do it again. What the hell can the UN do? When the UN is mad at you, that means you're not sitting there kissing up to these leaders who all are against American interests. Every one of them. Every one of them wants to suck from the teat of the American taxpayer. Every one of them. So they're angry. That's a good day. That's a very good day. If they're scared and intimidated that, oh my God, Trump is actually using that military, which we know he actually is the one who's defending us. How the hell would we ever defend ourselves from him? He's the source of our defense. How do you defend yourself from your protector? You can't. Oh, well, sucks to be you. Even with the strong support of Venezuela's sovereignty, its envoy called the UN to go beyond veiled comments and condemnation. Ambassador Samuel Mansada, I don't even know, urged the Security Council to demand that Washington release Maduro and his wife. Yeah, pound sand. If the kidnapping of a head of state, the bombing of a sovereign country, and the open threat of further armed action are tolerated or downplayed, the message sent to the world is a devastating one, namely that the law is optional and enforces the true arbiter of international relations. Yep, it is. Good morning. Hello. That's exactly how the world has always been run. He warned that other countries can't afford to look away. Accepting such a logic would mean to open the door to a deeply unstable world, and that's what they're all afraid of. They're afraid that he's right about that. Neighboring Colombia described the raid as reminiscent of the worst interference in our area in the past. Yeah, Colombia is very, very scared. They're very scared. They're top of the list of the ones who are scared right now. Trump has made threats against Colombia just today. We're going to see that soon. Democracy cannot be defended or promoted through violence and coercion, and it cannot be superseded either by economic interests. China and Russia are expectedly critical. Of course they are, because they basically want to use the Venezuelan oil, so they're not happy about this. They're very upset that they're not going to have access to the largest oil reserve in the world. Biggest critics of U.S. foreign policy, China and Russia, are also permanent members of the Security Council, call for the UN body to unite to rejecting America, turning back to an era of lawlessness. It's not lawlessness. This is actual finally lawfulness. Maduro, like his predecessor, forged a close relationship with Russia, while China was the main destination for most Venezuelan oil. We cannot allow the United States to proclaim itself as some kind of supreme judge. Oh, yes, we can. You know why? Because they're here and we have the weapons. And we have the military might. Which alone bears the right to invade any country, to label culprits, to hand down and to enforce punishments. See, we don't like them being the super cop. We don't like them being the superpower in the world. That's all they're whining about. We're really, really mad that everyone realizes that Trump is the leader of the superpower on the planet. This really bothers us. This makes us sad. This makes us really feel like crying. So we're going to stop and throw a tantrum here saying, hey, stop being such a powerful superpower, Trump. Stop it. We don't like it. We don't like you being such a superpower because you might try and use that in ways we don't want. And then we want to take his oil, and we like him spreading your narco-terrorism through your country. Stop it. Cut it out. This is Trump made America great again. That's what you're reading here. This article right here, I should pin it. I'm going to pin this in the description. You should read this and just enjoy it, savor it. This should be something you read over, review for breakfast. Should be like news. This should be wallpaper in the Oval Office. They're all crying. They're crying because Trump basically said we are the world's superpower. That's what this entire article is. The entire article is basically it's an homage to Donald Trump. It's an homage to his superiority. It's an homage to the fact that he's actually someone who's willing to wield the most mighty military in human history and say, hey, look, don't screw around with me. Don't screw around with our citizens. Don't screw around with narco-terrorism. It's not like he went in there and invaded the way Russia went into Ukraine. The audacity that you're sitting there saying that you have the right to invade Ukraine and we can't do a 3-hour incursion against a narco-terrorist who's a fake president of his country, butchering his own people there. And you're sitting here, Russia, like you're going to sit here telling us, like you're spouting like you're some sort of freaking moral authority. Who the hell are you? President Xi, what you do with your Uyghurs? Go to hell. You're no moral authority. You're the most corrupt, evil people on the planet. Sitting here telling us that, the lawlessness. What about the lawlessness of the way you abuse your own people? Your next door neighbors. You've been abusing them for years. What about the billions of dollars you cost us in having to defend Ukraine from your stupid invasion, Putin? Yeah, I'm not going to sit here crying, boo hoo 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 hoo. Yeah, what they're really angry about, they're not really. They're angry that America actually has a leader. That's what they're angry about. All of a sudden now, when Russia says this sort of stuff, the left is like, hey, go Russia. His own country's 2022 invasion of Ukraine has drawn widespread condemnation within the UN and from the U.S., although the Trump administration is engaged with Russia in hopes of brokering an end to the fighting. U.S. sees Maduro and his wife, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but this... Secretary of State Marco Rubio, however, says U.S. would enforce an oil quarantine that was already in place on the sanctioned tankers and use that leverage to press policy changes in Venezuela. When they're all crying about what Trump has done, that is telling you that they are very, very bothered by the fact that America is the world superpower yet again. That's what they're really crying about. That's what they're really, really ticked off about. And part of the reason that Venezuela is not too happy, even though I'm sure none of them are really crying about Maduro being gone. This is not good. This sucks. I don't need this. Stupid. Trump threatens Venezuela's new leader with a fate worse than Maduro's. In a telephone interview this morning, President Donald Trump issued a not-so-veiled threat against new Venezuelan leader Delcy Rodriguez, saying that, quote, if she doesn't do what's right, she's going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. And that's what Trump said. Trump made clear he would not stand for Rodriguez's defiant rejection of the armed U.S. intervention that resulted in Maduro's capture. During our call, Trump, who had just arrived at his golf club in West Palm Beach, was in evident good spirits, as he should be. reaffirmed to me that Venezuela may not be the last country subject to American intervention. We do need Greenland. Absolutely, he said. I'm going to need Greenland. Sorry, Denmark. Describing the land of part of Denmark, a NATO ally, is surrounded by Russian and Chinese ships. What are you doing about them, Denmark, about those ships that keep circling around Greenland? Because you're not doing anything about it. So what the hell, why are you keeping something that you can't do anything about? Russian and Chinese ships circling around. How the hell is it yours? You can't defend it from them, can you? And discussing Venezuela's future, he signaled a clear shift away from his previous distaste for regime change and nation building, rejecting the concerns of many in his MAGA base. You know, rebuilding there and regime change, anything you want to call it, it's better than what you have right now. Can't get any worse, he said. I don't like that idea. The severe tone he took with Rodriguez contrasted with the praise he had offered her yesterday, hours after the U.S. military forces attacked Caracas, captured Maduro and his wife. Trump said at a news conference after the attack that Rodriguez had privately indicated willingness to work with the United States, which Trump declared would temporarily run her country. She's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again, he said yesterday. Rodriguez rejected the suggestion moments later, declaring the country is ready to defend our natural resources, and the nation's defense council remained prepared to carry out the policies of Maduro, whose return she demanded. We shall never be a colony, never, ever again, she said. The prospect of Maduro's government continuing to resist the U.S. raised the risk of a protracted fight for control of Venezuela that require increased U.S. military involvement and even occupation. I really don't want to see occupation, but I don't think that they're in a position to resist us. Here's that. Yesterday, I showed a clip with this guy, Alex, who was, I believe, a Venezuelan, breaking down Venezuela and like the current situation there. I want to share that clip now. This is a new clip today about why Venezuela basically is terrified of Trump today. They're terrified of him today. As Alex, what's his name? Alex, I don't know. I still don't know his name. I don't know. But yeah, we'll just call him Alex because he keeps calling himself Alex.
The Venezuelan regime is about to fall. You heard it here first. Now you might be wondering, Alex, how could you possibly know this? So let me tell you. When the US struck Venezuela on January 3rd to capture Nicolás Maduro, they destroyed essentially all of Venezuela's aerial defense systems. Every major airport and major military bases were hit. Venezuela does not have the capacity to fight back anymore. They're sitting ducks. The US can ride in on a helicopter or a plane and do whatever they want. They can strike any member of the regime wherever they are, whenever they want. And they know that Trump is willing to do it now. And that's the difference between the before and after of January 3rd. The people who are left within the regime, people like Delcy Rodriguez, Jorge Rodriguez, Diosdado Cabello, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, they know they're surrounded by military and political power far superior to anything they control at this moment. They have no room to negotiate. Their hands are tied. At this point, their only option is to cooperate or be eliminated. So the negotiation is really the terms of surrender. And that's what's being ironed out right now, if I had to guess. If you want proof of this, you could just see the video that was recorded by Diosdado Cabello, the head of all police and intelligence services in Venezuela, just yesterday. He's seen in a Zoom call in a bunker. Usually he's out on the street surrounded by police. So why is Diosdado Cabello hiding underground? And what do you think the rest of the military is going to think when they see this man hiding? In the video, he asked the armed forces for unity against the U.S. threat. It's very clear from where he is that he doesn't believe it's safe to go out anymore. Even those in the military understand this. And Diosdado Cabello was notorious on his weekly TV show that would last hours for amusing himself, mocking political prisoners and the torture of Venezuelans. The fact that this man is hiding in a bunker on a Zoom call tells you everything you need to know about where this is heading. I guarantee you that the Venezuelan regime will fall. And for all intents and purposes, it already has.
So there you go. So she can sit there saying, you know, we're ready to defend ourselves. But Alex from Venezuela is giving just cause to believe, based on what we're seeing from Venezuelan leaders, that that's all bluster. And if this kid can see it, I'm sure that our very capable military sees it as well. So, you know, obviously MSN is, you know, is going to portray a bleak prospect that they're saying, hey, you know, we're going to end up in some sort of protracted war with Venezuela. And look, she's talking tough. Delcy Rodriguez is rejecting the suggestion saying that the country's ready to defend our natural resources. Yeah, it doesn't sound like they don't sound very ready. She's going to say they're ready. That doesn't mean that they are. Rebuilding is not a bad thing in Venezuela's case, he said. The country's gone to hell. It's a failed country. Now, again, I want to be crystal clear here so no one misunderstands me. I do not believe that I don't want to see American troops going into Venezuela. I don't want to see that. It's definitely not something that I think would be cool. But the idea that they are that a conflict is something that's, she's ready to have. I think everyone knows that's just bluster. It's empty bluster. That's all it is. It's just I mentioned to you how Colombia is worried that they're next, and here's Trump saying just that. President Trump issued severe warning to very sick Colombia after daring capture a Venezuelan dictator. So it doesn't seem like he's done. At least he's warning that he's not done. President Trump threatened military action against Colombia and its sick leader after this weekend's daring capture of dictator Nicolas Maduro, the acting president of which has since offered to work with the U.S. in a stunning about-face. I told you. You are living in Trump-verse. You are living in Trump's universe. A stunning about-face? You don't say. You don't say. That's all it takes. Is he sort of like coordinate 150 aircraft to go in there and seize a guy from one of the most guarded military bases on the freaking South American continent without losing a single American life. That's kind of intimidating to somebody from Colombia. It's kind of intimidating. Maybe I don't want to be ticking Donald Trump off. A stunning about-face. What the hell? Oh my God! I can't even believe whoever saw that happening. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was impossible to call that one. Colombia is very sick. Colombia is very sick too. Run by a sick man who likes making cocaine, selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long. Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One about Colombia's president Gustavo Petro. Trump responded, "It sounds good to me," when he was asked directly by News Nation's Libby Dean whether the U.S. would carry out military operations against Venezuela's neighbor. Colombian response slammed Trump's comments as an unacceptable global threat against an elected leader. It represents an undue interference in the international affairs of the country against the norms of international law. Whoops. Oh, does it? Oh, stop sending us your drugs. Oh. Trump administration imposed sanctions on Petro, his family, and a member of the government in October over accusations of his country's involvement in the global drug trade, specifically cocaine. Trump's warning comes after Saturday's capture of Maduro, who is due to appear in court in New York City on Monday on federal drug trafficking and other charges, following a months-long campaign of airstrikes and alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean. The president later expanded on operations to also target suspected drug trafficking ships in the Eastern Pacific that came from Colombia. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He's not going to be doing it for very long, Trump said of Petro on Sunday. He has cocaine mills, cocaine factories. He's not going to be doing it. Meanwhile, Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez said a shocking change of tone that her country was ready to work with the U.S. Oh, after she earlier criticized the raid on Saturday as an illegal effort. So that's the newer report. Is Delcy's singing a different tune? Maybe she got the call. She got the call. What time did this thing come out? 6:37 a.m.? I don't know. We invite the U.S. government to collaborate with us on an agenda of cooperation oriented towards shared development within the framework of international law to strengthen lasting community coexistence, said Rodriguez, a socialist. President Donald Trump, our peoples in our region deserve peace and dialogue, not war. Yeah, that sounds more like it. That sounds more like it, Delcy. Rodriguez, who also serves as Venezuela's oil minister is considered the most pragmatic member of Maduro's inner circle, and Trump had said she's willing to work with the U.S. So, yeah. Diane Keaton looking like she's made. Diane Keaton died? Did she really? I was gonna say, she looks like she's carved out of wood in that picture. I would think that that's a wax version of her. I didn't know she died. I didn't know you could eat protein and get weaker. We didn't hit our goal. We did not hit, which is unfortunate. We didn't hit our goal. There's one thing I have to share with you before we go further. I still have more, don't worry. I still have more. I'll share with you in a moment. First, I want to share with you this clip here. This is what Colombian president used to sound like. This is how he used to talk. This is him addressing Marco Rubio. This is Petro, president of Colombia.
Entonces le tengo que decir al señor Marco Rubio, hermano, si me va a meter preso, a ver si puede. Si me quiere poner la pijama naranja, inténtelo. Pero este pueblo no se le arrodilla. Sus odios del pasado, que no los conozco, ni ningún colombiano es culpable de lo que le pasó a su abuelo o a su papá. Y entonces le tengo que decir al señor Marco Rubio, hermano, si me va a meter...
Yeah, he's not talking like that anymore. That was him back in I think in September. He's not talking about like that anymore. The state's words are resurfacing now in context marked by warnings from President Donald Trump against governments in the region, including Colombia and Cuba. I got a feeling he's about to be doing a stunning about face. That's stunning about face. Shocking. Shocking everyone. As Robbie Starwick reports, President Trump now says that Cuba is ready to fall and that a lot of Cuban Americans are going to be very happy about it. That's a major understatement. Watching the communist regime fall in Cuba is a lifelong dream for Americans from Cuba. For my mom, my cousins, my grandparents, etc., it's been a dream they prayed to witness. 3/4 of my grandparents didn't survive to see it. Attached are some photos from my grandpa, Julio Pape, who's alive still, and my deceased grandmother, Martha, in Cuba during better times as young lovebirds. Fidel Castro stole everything but their love and their lives. Same with my other grandparents, Rafael and Ophelia, and my mom. They lost everything but their love and their lives. Now there's hope of a free Cuba for our long-lost family there and hope of making past wrongs right once again. I'm with President Trump all the way. Cuba should be a rich island paradise, and it can be a U.S. territory. It's a strategic asset for our safety, too, as a base of operations to defend our homeland in the mainland U.S. I would love to see Cuba become a territory. There's no downside to toppling the communists who've only stayed in power by killing and jailing Cubans for decades. Now's the time. It can also serve as a helpful spot to run any U.S.-Venezuela operations that benefits America instead of a narco pass-through entity used by our enemies as a constant threat to American safety. Russia, China, Venezuela, and many others have used Cuba to threaten us for long enough. It's time we take control and empower the Cuban people. No American blood needs to be spilled. That's the key to me. This can be a massive win for the future of both Cuba and, more importantly, for America. It's time for the evil of communism to die. Here's Trump on this.
That Cuba is ready to fall. You know, yes. Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
Marco Rubio has really
that Cuba is.
So there you go. Trump is now talking about Cuba. Cuba and Colombia. This is the Monroe Doctrine right there. Greenland and Denmark is very worried about losing Greenland. NATO ally Denmark warns the U.S. against taking Greenland by force. You better buy it from us. Denmark's prime minister warned Monday that any U.S. move to take Greenland by force would destroy 80 years of transatlantic security links. 80 years. That's how long it's been since we saved your ass from the Nazis. After President Donald Trump repeated his desire to annex the mineral-rich Arctic territory, Washington's military intervention in Venezuela has reignited fears about Trump's designs on the autonomous Danish territory, which has untapped rare earth deposits and can be a vital player as polar ice melts, opening up new shipping routes. We need Greenland. We need Greenland. We need Greenland from a standpoint of national security, and Denmark is not going to be able to do it. They're not going to be able to do it. In response, Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen told Trump to back off. You better back off. Stay back. Stay back. You can't keep Russia and China away from your shores. How are you going to keep America? Well, several European countries in the EU rushed to back Denmark, which has urged Washington to stop threatening a NATO ally. In Copenhagen, Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen told the TV2 network, if the U.S. decides to militarily attack another NATO country, then everything would stop. That includes NATO, and therefore post-World War II security. Goodbye, NATO. I missed the super, Jim. Did I? He should double everyone's tariffs tomorrow. I did miss that. I apologize. We should double. I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to keep the tariffs. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to let him keep them, to be honest. Greenland is one of the shortest routes for missiles between Russia and the U.S., and Washington already has a military base there. With the situation in Venezuela more pressing, we'll worry more about Greenland in about 2 months. We got 2 months. Well, give us 2 months. Let's settle everything in Venezuela. That I like. That's a sign that maybe we're not going to be so extended into Venezuela. Nielsen told Trump on social media, that's enough now. No more pressure. No more insinuations. No more fantasies of annexation. Okay. We're open to dialogue. Oh, there we go. We're open to dialogue. It must happen through the proper channels and with respect for international law. This is basically saying, I'll give it to you. Just don't take it from me. Compensate me. Make me whole. Make me whole. I'll give it to you. Make me whole.
Every obituary holds a story of a unique life, and a snapshot of that person who lived it. At newspapers.com, you can search over 840 million obituaries dating back to the 1700s.
No,
whether you're looking for a great-great-great-grandfather, a favorite historical figure, or anyone else, you can search names and dates to discover their unique story. Sign up for your 7-day free trial today and get started.
I'm trying to get rid of this. I did get rid of it. I don't know how I got rid of it. I didn't close out that tab. I'm closing out other tabs, but I didn't find that one yet. More good news as far as respecting Trump is Switzerland, which is saying Denmark's U.S. envoy expresses full... Well, that's not the one. This is the one. Venezuela, with immediate effect, Switzerland is freezing any Swiss-based assets linked to Nicolas Maduro. So they seem to be respecting this this apprehension. If any assets turn out to be of illicit origin, Switzerland will do its best to ensure that these benefit the Venezuelan population. Switzerland is closely monitoring the situation in Venezuela. Update travel advice is available here. That's from the Swiss federal government. So, like, what do you want, Trump? What do you want, Donald? We'll do what you want. We'll do what you want. You are living in Trump world. Denmark is saying, please compensate us for Greenland. Please stop saying he'll take it by force. They're all terrified that he's going to just take whatever the hell he wants. They're all terrified. This is where Trump has made America great again. Where he didn't have to start a whole protracted war. A quick incursion, making his point. Basically has sent a message that the entire world is now quaking in their boots. That is your president. That is my president. That is our magnificent president. Do you remember when do you remember that ever happening? Even under Reagan, we never had that. This hasn't happened in generations. Frankly, even under in World War II, you know, the Axis were Hitler and the Axis were not. They were concerned about America, but not quite as terrified as the entire world seems to be of Donald Trump. He's arguably right now the most feared man, most feared without being like, you know, I mean, Hitler was feared, and I certainly shouldn't use those two names in the same breath because Hitler was obviously the ultimate evil, and Trump is obviously a very, very remarkable and amazing human being. But the point being, as far as just the level of trepidation, this guy is a generational talent. He's amazing. Some leftist is going to clip that where I threw them together. Try and twist me. All right. I do want to share one thing with you before I get out of here. This is something I have to share with you, and it's most appropriate to share with you today. Something funny. We didn't hit our goal, so I can't share with you. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to the goal people. It wouldn't be fair to them for me to, like, you know, share with you all the stuff that I have. But there's one thing that I need to share with you, which I was like, this is just freaking genius. And oh, there it is. And it's apropos for today. So I need to share this with you. I will remind you that before I get on out of here, lab meat was not meant for you. It never was meant for you. It's meant for they, them. So don't touch that crap. Please, don't touch that crap. Hey, Nick Ricato rated the stream. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Nick Ricato rating my streams. God bless you, brother. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it definitely worked out okay. Those of you coming over from Nick Ricato, thanks for joining. You managed to catch the last couple of minutes of my show before I get on out of here. I got some funny to share with you. Here you go. As I was expressing to the audience here how this is Trump world that we are now living in, and everyone is terrified of him. This is President Trump doing red carpet commentary on world leaders, and this is just freaking genius.
The British Prime Minister.
Was that the beginning of it? No, let's take it from the beginning.
Okay, let's see who arrives now. This guy, they say he's the president of Finland, looking like the captain of a cruise ship. We need to get him a captain's hat later on. Okay, who the fuck is this guy? These Europeans all look like accountants. Yes, sir. I come to do your taxes. Okay, thank you, sir. The British Prime Minister, they say this guy is gay. I don't know if that's true or not. I just think he's a dork. Hey, this guy is definitely gay, and his wife is a man, and she beats him. And then, well, poor guy. Georgia Maloney. I love her. I told her and Elon that if they ever have a kid, they better name him Eloni Maloney. Ursula. I like that she calls me daddy. They all should when you think about it. Good day. I come to see my American daddy. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, let's see who arrives now. This guy, they say he's the president of Finland.
That is so awesome. Eloni Maloney. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. That's a strong one to finish out with. You're welcome. And I felt it was very appropriate, given that this show is tonight's episode was all about how we're living in Trump world. And in that respect, he has already made America great, greater than it's been at any point in your life. I'm telling you now, greater than any point it's been in your life. That America is now feared. America is now respected, begrudgingly respected. Begrudging respect is what we should always be seeking. The begrudging respect of our military and the fact that we might actually use it in a way to advance American interests. That is what we should always be seeking. That is what we should be grateful to Donald Trump for bringing back. That is Donald Trump having made America great again. And with that, I thank you all for joining me. God willing, tomorrow I will be starting at an earlier time. I'm still undecided. I set a poll up in my community. Do you prefer earlier time, Joe, or later time, Joe? I went to later time during the holiday season, but I am curious to know about that. So if you can please check out that poll question that I put in YouTube. While you're here, please like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, and all that other good stuff. And doing all that good stuff, what you should not be doing under any circumstances is please make sure you do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't do it. This was a great show. Hit that like. Good night. Godspeed.